I don't know. I may be older than you, Bob. I don't know. I may be older than you, Bob.
I'll be 61 next month.
Okay. Yeah, you're about 7 months older than me.
So
Gary,
that means what I say goes. Is that what that means?
that's it. But Gary trumps us all because he's by far the oldest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gary, if you need to stop and take a nap throughout, just let us know.
Oh, jeez.
Wow.
That's hilarious.
I took my Geritol. I should be okay.
Okay.
Oh, my. This is going to be a fun one. I can tell.
Yeah. Hey, Bob, those are nice plaques you did. Thank you again for coming up with a tournament.
No problem. That's a worthy cause. I look forward to next year's. See what you guys are doing.
Yeah. Gary will find another family to help, I'm sure. And we'll,
I'm thinking the venues may have to change.
Yeah. I said that to Bill today. We're going to find someplace a little bigger. So,
yeah.
Maybe
I heard the turnout was like double or triple what it was last year.
Yes, it's probably about double.
And I suspect next year will be even bigger. I do. I really do. It's a growing tournament. It's really turned in, I think, this year into one of those you don't want to miss tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It seemed like everybody had fun, and we'll get our commentating down a little better next year. Get Harley back, and that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Greg did a great job. So we'll probably run 2 mics and two bracket people and two mics.
Amen.
That's the one thing.
Like a great idea, guys. That really does.
Yeah. You just
like every tournament, you walk away, you look at it, you learn what you can improve on, and you work on that the next one.
Yeah. It was good.
I'm just getting ready to tag everybody here on Facebook. I'm sharing the link to Facebook and everything. So
okay,
we just continue to talk amongst ourselves, and we'll see.
Okay,
we'll get started here in a few.
Bob, I was telling Gary earlier today that we had at least one guy who came up to me, Chad Warner, and he had to work, but he was planning on entering 2 classes, so he drove all the way from Tip City to there to give me $40 for the 2 classes that he would have entered, and then he had to go into work.
Wow.
So that's just there are just some amazing people in the sport farm, and you wouldn't think it, but there's some high class people.
Yeah,
met Chad.
The super matches were pretty cool because I think every participant except for the girls basically took whatever their winnings were and put it into the pot.
That's good.
They took nothing. They took their own money back and gave their full winnings.
Yeah,
so,
good.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's really good. That's really good.
Yeah.
Let me.
Which reminds me, I need to get the results of the super matches and post it. That's the one thing I didn't do.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't even get to see any of the super matches, but
yeah, I think I know who won them all, but I don't know what they won them by.
Yeah.
So I may have to ask. I may have to ask the guys because we had too much going on at that point.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, we got a few people in here. I'm just saying hello to the chat.
Okay.
If you guys want, you can follow along with the chat. If you have another phone and or tablet or anything, you can open up to YouTube and go to Billy Collins East Ohio Arm Wrestling.
You've already maxed out on my technical abilities, so start running 2 phones here. It's
oh, that's great.
I have to call my granddaughter to come help me or something.
Oh, that's great.
We're going to talk really loud and slow for Bob.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay.
That's great.
No respect.
All right. Well, guys, I'm going to go ahead and we'll wait until Gary gets back, and then we'll officially.
I'm back. I'm just trying to get on my PC and see if I could get in on my PC. So
yeah, take your time, man. Go ahead and get everything situated there, and then that way you can say hello to everybody on the chat. And sometimes I may or may not miss a question or something that somebody has posted in the live chat. So it's always good to have another set of eyes on it.
yeah, my eyes aren't so good anymore.
Yeah,
I don't have my glasses on, so if anything pops up on the screen, I see fuzzy figures. That's all I see right now.
So
That's
the,
about
the
how I
Zoom
was.
that we're this Zoom that we're using, is it limited to the iPad and iPhone, or can you actually use the Zoom on your laptop?
Laptop.
yeah, you can do that. Yeah.
Okay.
It's whatever Zoom, I do believe where I sent the link is wherever you access that link. And if you have Zoom on that piece of equipment, you should be able to access the link.
Okay.
All right. So
Yeah, you should just be able to log into your Zoom account on the desktop and or iPad or.
I'll have to set up Zoom. I don't have Zoom. I use Teams meetings mostly.
I'm retired. What? Hey, so Billy Collins
/ a space / East Ohio Arm Wrestling. Yeah. And then make sure whenever you start playing that, you just pause the video and just open the live chat. So that way we don't hear it. You don't want to have the audio on it.
Okay. It's Billy Collins /
Yep. East Ohio Arm Wrestling. Yep.
East Ohio.
And Gary, don't have any porn on your computer. We can see the reflection in your glasses.
Yeah.
Wow, this meeting's taking a turn.
It's taking a turn real quick there.
The gloves are.
Wow.
Well, I'm just throwing a couple logs on the fire, gentlemen, and we're going to get going.
Okay.
That's why you're only seeing me from the waist up, Bill.
Thank God. Thank God.
All right, guys, we are going to go ahead and get started. We thank everybody for joining us tonight for our East Ohio Arm Wrestling podcast. Tonight, we definitely want to thank you guys for being here. First off, I'd like to introduce Mr. Bob Sutton. Thank you for being here. Thanks, Bob.
Thanks for having me.
Secondly, Mr. Bill Arnold. Thank you for being here, Mr. Bill.
Well, thank you. Looking forward to it.
And then last but not least, thank you for being here, Gary Woodworth. We thank you for being here, brother.
Thank you.
Awesome. We appreciate you guys being here. This is the East Ohio Arm Wrestling Podcast. First off, let's get this out of the road. We got some sponsors that we want to thank for helping us run this podcast. Bill Connor with Morrow County Arm Wrestling League. We definitely want to thank him for his support in putting on this podcast. We definitely appreciate it. Also, we want to thank Zach Perkins and his company, Grip Arm Sport. We definitely appreciate everything that he's doing in the community and everything he's doing for arm wrestling. We thank him so much for helping out with the podcast. Also, Kiwanis International of East Liverpool. We are very close with that organization, and we definitely thank them for all the support that they have helped out with East Ohio Arm Wrestling. We definitely want to thank them. And also Marshall Thompson Trucking. It is our Zoom sponsor for 2023. We thank them so much for purchasing the Zoom feature that we are using today. So Marshall Thompson Trucking, we thank them so much for helping out with the podcast and supporting the arm wrestling community. All right. Thank you, guys. We're going to go ahead and get started with the podcast. Bob, let's start with you because you are to my left on the screen. So we're just going to go right across the way. Bob, for the viewers that have not been in the sport for very long, because we have, quite an array of different ages in the sport and, in the followers and what we have on East Ohio Arm Wrestling. can you kind of just go over where you started and how you're connected in the arm wrestling community?
Well, I started in 1979. I was in high school. I thought I knew how to arm wrestle in high school. One of my teachers got my mom to sign a paper. He took me to a real tournament. If you'd have blinked, you'd have saw me lose, or you'd have missed it. But after that tournament, like it still happens today, the winners stayed and were willing to show and share and teach. And I just got hooked on it. But for me, I think I had a little bit of a different path. I went to approximately 19 or 20 tournaments in 3 years and never won a match, not one.
Wow.
My father actually, after 3 years, suggested I find a new hobby. But for me, the story I tell all the young people and new people, perseverance pays off. Stick with it, learn. I didn't come with any natural strength or any speed, any natural talent. So I had to put in the years and put in the work. And but 1979 to now, it's been the greatest part of my life, with the exception of my wife and kids. I'm supposed to say that, by the way.
Yeah.
Just some of the greatest people I've ever met. Lifelong relationships, travel. It's an awesome sport.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Bill.
My background, huh? Well,
yeah, sir, if you would, please.
Yeah, I started in 1981. I was in 4th grade.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah,
I like that.
no, I started actually on my birthday in 1981. I went to a tournament, and I had been wrestling at parties and just friends and things like that, and was fairly good for my size. But I'll tell you, I went to this tournament, and I was convinced I was going to win. I thought, it's an arm wrestling tournament. This is going to be awesome. I went, and there were several people in the class, and I actually did win the very first tournament, went undefeated. And I was pretty sure I was God's gift to arm wrestling at that point. And that fame and fortune were in my future. And after the tournament, like Bob said, people stick around. And so this was on a Sunday. The tournament was on a Sunday, I remember. And this guy who was about 135 pounds, I was about 160 at the time, but a guy who was about 135 pounds named Rick Delaney came up afterwards. He hadn't wrestled, but he said, "Hey, you did pretty well. Could I see how you feel?" And I thought, well, sure, but I'm probably going to break your arm, or,
Oh.
He let me whack on him a few times. And then he said, "Okay, now I'm going to stop you." And I thought, sure, little man. And I stopped. He stopped me right in the middle. He waited a few seconds and then whacked me to the side. And what I didn't realize is that they had had the state championships the day before. So all the pros had gone to that. No pros came to this tournament on Sunday. It was all amateurs, just like me. And so, but the good thing is, Rick then introduced me to Bill Ballou, who is a local guy. And that guy took me in and started showing me stuff. I went to his house every Wednesday for probably 5 years, every Wednesday night. And he trained me. And then, like Bob said, this 40 years has been amazing. I didn't do it continuously. I had injuries in like the late 80s, early 90s. I had a bicep tear, and so I quit for years. I started back when Greg started wanting to show an interest. I didn't train. I lifted weights, but I didn't really train, and went at it kind of half-assed for a while, and then stopped again. And then when I came back about, I guess in 2018, I think I started back again. And 2019, I came back really with a vengeance. I wanted to prove something. So I really trained hard and worked with Greg a lot and the team. And so it's been fantastic. And then, I retired last year from doing it. So I won't arm wrestle again, but it's been a fantastic thing. And all the people I've met, wouldn't trade it for anything. And the biggest plus for me, I think, is doing this with my son. So having Greg there to train with, he's over here three times a week, 4 times a week. And we train religiously. I go to every tournament I can with him. He's just an amazing kid. And that to me is worth everything. I trade every win I ever had just for the experience of spending the time with him.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Gary, you want to tell us about yourself?
Yeah, I'll tell a little about myself. Bill, are you still on voice there?
Yes.
So, 1981, was that the Wright tournament?
Wright State, October 2nd, 1981.
Yeah, my bracket was a little different that day.
Yeah.
That was the same day I started. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So me and Bill, we sort of met each other at Bill Blues a few weeks after that tournament. Didn't really know each other. We both went to Wright State University at the time. So we were both, going to school, working our butts off and trying to hit the gym as much as we could. So me and Bill became workout partners for a lot of years. So I entered the Wright State arm wrestling tournament. I weighed in probably 185. I'd been up around 200 before that. But for that tournament, I pulled 85. My normal class became the 169 class after that. That's pretty much where I stayed. So I show up at Wright State. I think I'm pretty good. I've arm wrestled some guys in bars and this and that. And I showed up that day. State champion was there in my weight class. Gerald Dees just returned from the World Championships, had taken second. And Harley Maynard had just returned from the World Championships and taken first. And all three were pulling in my weight class that day.
Oh, boy.
So
how'd you do?
I beat the state champion. So I did accomplish that day one. I got whacked by Gerald twice. Did not get a pull Harley that day.
Yeah.
But after the tournament, Bill Blue introduced himself to me. He said, me and Bill lifted together for quite a couple of years there back in the earlier 80s, 81, 82, maybe 83, probably 81, 82. But we had practices every Wednesday at Bill's. Harley would be there. Gerald would be there. Dave Montz, who was a mentor to both me and Bill. We had, Mike Strong, myself, Bill, Rick Delaney. But basically, we almost, formed a team. So when we went to tournaments and away tournaments and traveled, 3 or 4 of us would load up in a car and each one of us would pull a different weight class. And we'd usually come back from some big tournament and each one of us would come back with a trophy. It may not have been first. It may have been second, may have been third.
Yeah, that's okay. Somebody's bringing home some hardware.
We bring home the hardware. And it was a good time. I got married in 1985, moved to Virginia. So when I moved out there, I was just sort of working a lot and this and that. And I heard they had a tournament at the Maryland. So they had a state tournament over in Maryland. So I showed up at that. I decided I pulled a super heavyweight that day. I weighed 169.
Oh boy.
I met Jim Northern that day. That's who beat me in the finals. But also bumped into a couple other people that pulled locally in Virginia. So I ended up hooking up with the Patton boys, Tommy Watson, Jim Northern, Ray Patton, quite a few other characters that are pretty big names in arm wrestling. But that was a eye-opening experience meeting Dave Patton, because to me, Dave was probably the best pound for pound arm wrestler I'd ever pulled against. And unfortunately, I had to practice with him. And when I showed up at tournaments, he'd usually jump in my quick weight class so his brother could pull his weight class. So I arm wrestled till about 1986. I broke my hand. And when I broke my hand, I had no finger pressure, and everybody started top rolling the piss out of me. And I go, well, this isn't working. So I didn't like taking seconds or thirds. So I quit at that point. I had 2 kids working 80 hours a week. I just really didn't have time for it. Moved back to Ohio, started arm wrestling again in 2010. Bob Sutton may have been at that practice that day, but I was pulling Shane Vasquez. Very first time I'd pulled probably in 25 years, tore a pec.
Oh, geez.
Oh, that was at O'Grady's.
Yeah, that was your bar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I tore my pec that day. I'm like, well, okay, well, I got a little work to do. So I just started doing light flies and tried to build up the muscle back around that shoulder. And I, basically work with guys, tried to help them with some technique, and me teaching techniques, and not the best thing in the world, because I was more a power puller.
Right.
So, I knew how to stop a top roll. And if you couldn't top roll the piss out of me, I pretty much had you. So, I just started working out, started pulling again, 2011, I think you had a tournament there at O'Grady's. So that was my first tournament back. And that was probably a year after I tore my pec. Went to, Kentucky Muscle, pulled super heavyweights down there, and end up against Lopkis in the finals. That was a fun match.
Oh boy.
Yeah. You almost beat him until they said go.
I grabbed his thumb and I decided I wasn't going to hurt myself again. Yeah. I was happy. I was happy to make it all the way to the finals. I didn't expect that. I just, sort of walked through, some people are way bigger than me. I weighed in 215 and Lopkis was 320, I think, that day. And so I beat some pretty good guys that day, and I was happy to make the finals. And I think I just laid down for Richard. I'm like, I'm not going to hurt myself. I'm not going inside. I'm not doing anything with this guy. But work with the Bill took have practices. I'd have a few occasionally. Here and there, and the tournament basically started with when Dave Montz had passed away. So basically, I just wanted to honor.
I'll be right back.
Everything he did for us, and that's how our tournament began. So,
well, that's cool.
So
that's cool. Thank you.
So arm wrestled last week for the first time in 3 years.
Oh boy, how'd that go?
I won, but I'm paying the price. my shoulders feeling it. But I'll probably pull again because I've been training hard. It's just I'm just gonna have to realize I'm just gonna pull in the Masters from now on and quit trying to pull the young guys.
I gotcha. You and Gerald had a nice little battle at your event, right?
Yeah, we had 3 battles, and he smoked me in battle too, and I got the best of them in the other 2. So,
got it. Nice. Well, thanks, Bill. I wanted to talk to you about that relationship, man. That you and Greg have, man. I'm to be honest with you, I talked to him about this before. I'm a little envious of you guys being able to do, everything together as far as arm wrestling, man. It's definitely something that is worth cherishing for sure, and being able to experience these things together, because I would have loved to, been able to have that opportunity with my dad. Yeah,
I tell you, there's another aspect to that I'll share with you. So in 2018, I was diagnosed with stage 4 throat cancer. And that was a tough battle to get through. And my wife did all the care for me and kept me going that way. It was Greg that kept coming over 3 times a week, and he'd work out. And most of the time I didn't even want to stand up or couldn't talk, but he would say, could you just come out to the outbuilding and just, kind of hang out with me while I'm working out? And I would, and I'd last maybe 5 minutes, as I started to get better, and I went from 227 pounds down to 169 pounds in the course of about 2 months. And so Greg actually started, like when I'd go out there and was done with my treatment, but still trying to recover, he would say, "Oh, Dad, just try to, grab one of these and just see if you can do a few curls with it." And he was doing it he didn't need to come to my house to work out, but he was doing it to keep me going, because there's a time when you have cancer, a lot of people are probably like this. There's times you just don't feel like going on. And, but he was there all the time and pushed me to start pulling, and then started saying, "Man, at this weight, could you imagine if you competed again?" And so, I love him so much for who he is, not the arm wrestling aspect of it, but just that's the kind of person he is. He's always thinking of somebody else, other people. And so I owe a lot to him, because he really pulled me back from a potentially bad outcome. And so I'm forever grateful to him for that. And I love doing this. I mean, the best thing a father can do is have a great relationship with his son. And you certainly have that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think we lost Bob there, did we?
He said he was going to step away for just a second.
Okay. Hopefully he clicks that link again. Let's check out the chat here, guys. I'm going to go back to the beginning and just give everybody a shout out that's in the chat. Chris Drummond, he's here. He says, hello.
Hey, Chris.
Hi. He said, we have to be careful if Gary takes a nap. It might be his last. Oh, my.
Gary,
come on, Chris.
Tony Stansberry, he's a newer puller. He says, what's up, guys?
Hey, Tony.
Yep. My wife says hello. That's Christy.
Hello, wife.
My brother's he was watching. Clinton Collins, he says, you're doing a great job. A good job, brother. Thanks. Bill Connor, he's here. One of the supporters of the podcast. He says, #legends. Legends.
#old guys.
Right. I'm getting up there too. Trust me. Let's see here. Michael Malone, arm wrestling. He's here. He says, hello, everyone.
Right.
He's a newer puller, part of the East Ohio gang. Very strong left hand he does. Wilkie, our friend Jeff Wilkinson from Pennsylvania. He says, fellas, nice to see yins. Billy doing a great job, buddy, at Arnold's. Thanks for that, Jeff. Appreciate that. Christy, she says, great stories. So you guys are doing awesome.
All right.
Caleb Franks gives us the flex. He says, getting my popcorn.
No butter.
Awesome. Bill, your boy, Mr. Greg Arnold, arm wrestling underdog. He's here. He says, he honestly has inspired me to keep doing this and regrown my love for the sport.
Oh, well, good.
Awesome. Joel Hudick, he's here.
Hey, Joel.
He said, great cast tonight. Great guys. Billy, what happened to your beard? Hey, I had to look, somewhat presentable instead of like a homeless person, for Arnold's, Sometimes it just gets just too much, and then it's just time to just make a change.
Yeah.
Greg also said, the sport got so much more exciting with my dad getting back into it.
Yeah. For me and Greg, anyway, it was exciting.
Right. Torque Arm Wrestling, they're here. They said, what's up, Bill and Gary?
Hey.
Hopefully Bob can get back on here, man. That'd be good. That's that catches us up with the chat.
All right.
It's definitely cool. Let's see here. Gary, what like on a personal level, like what let's see here. Asking for Zoom meeting ID. Oh, hang on. Give me 1 second.
All right.
I can Bob back in here. Let me try to send him another link here.
A rescue mission is underway.
Yeah, this is a rescue mission. Let me send this to him. I'm gonna probably freeze
Hey,
here.
Whatever you do, tell Bob not to go into the light.
Hopefully that's going to let him in.
Man, we could have really talked some crap about him if we knew he was going to be gone this long.
Let me see. I'm going to freeze up here for a second.
Okay.
Maybe, possibly. Rescue mission underway.
All right.
Asking him for a Zoom meeting ID.
Should be in the link, right?
There he is. He's got it. He's got it. Beautiful.
He's not as dumb as you said, Billy.
Oh, don't do me like that, bro. Oh, now I'm all messed up now. Really. I'm all messed up now. Bob, can you hear us? Hit that. There you go. You got it. He's got it.
I had to squeeze my nap. I had to squeeze my nap in.
Yeah.
Hope it was a power nap.
Yeah, I feel
Right.
so much better.
Nice. Gary, I was getting ready to ask you on a personal level, what impact on you personal level has arm wrestling been for you?
Well, I think on a personal level, I was probably, when I first started arm wrestling, I was coming out of as a party boy. I just all the time I was, out and hanging in bars and, stuff like that. And, when I started arm wrestling, it gave me a little more structure back to my life. I'm a little AC, attention deficit disorder at times. And, it gave me, something to focus on. And when I focus on something, I tend to do pretty well at it. But it pulled me out of a rut, gave me some confidence back in my life. Great experience.
You hear that a lot from the arm wrestling community, don't you? As a whole.
Yeah, it's something that, I was past playing baseball, I was past playing football. At that point, it's like, well, I got to do something. And softball wasn't getting it. All we did is drink then. It added some structure. I met some really good friends and spent a lot of time with my arm wrestling buddies there, probably from 81 to 83. I was really focused on it. 84, I didn't pull as much in 84. I was taking 20, 22, and 24 credit hours in school and working full time. So I sort of bowed out of the sport. I may have pulled 2 tournaments in 84 and I didn't do so well. I think Kentucky. I think one was in Kentucky. But before that, I just became completely focused on it. I went through a stretch, I think from 82 to 83, I think I won 17 straight tournaments. That's probably the height of my career. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. So focused, focused lifestyle is really kind of seems what it sounds like. It helped you focus through,
It gave me something that had meaning in my life again, other than, it gave me a reason to go to the gym, a reason to work out, a reason to, show up and try to make a name for myself.
Gotcha. So. That's awesome. That's
awesome. Billy, I think what it does to you also is, and everybody can probably relate to this, is that when you become an arm wrestler, a professional arm wrestler, that almost becomes who you are. You are a conversation piece with your friends and other people.
Oh, yeah.
You're the guy that arm wrestles. Oh my, you run into that all the time, and everybody wants to stand out and be a little different. And that certainly helps you do that. Although that's not the reason we get into arm wrestling, but it's kind of a nice byproduct. And
I agree with that.
Yeah.
It's the biggest icebreaker that I've ever had in my entire life.
Yeah. Right.
As soon as anybody hears anything about arm wrestling, oh yeah, you're arm wrestling. Oh man, geez.
Yeah.
Tons of conversation starters.
It is.
But Bob, let's turn to you, my friend. I wanted to ask you how Bob's Plaques came to be.
Oh, actually, that came to be when COVID first kicked in. My work shut down for about 2 months, although I was fortunate, they paid us. But I was bored, and there was a community workshop that has a laser machine in it, and went down there, joined, started using it. I made plaques for nationals in Chicago a long time ago, the hard way. And I always wanted to make plaques and awards for arm wrestling because I knew what I wanted to win or what I wanted to take home versus some of the plasticky awards I had gotten. But I also recognized the challenge that promoters have, which is how do you afford to have 50, 60, 80 quality awards at a reasonable price? That's a big challenge. All promoters want to give nice awards out, but how do you afford that?
How do you afford it?
So I don't make much profit on it. I see it more as kind of my way to give back to the sport. I've gotten great feedback on them. They seem pretty popular. I enjoy making them. It's a nice hobby for me. It grew a lot quicker than I had expected. I will say that. Haven't turned down a job yet, but like today I started at 6:45 a.m. and stopped about an hour before this, all day today, just working on 4 different orders of plaques. So
now, is that machine? Do you still go to that same machine and use that?
No. I invested in my own. I have a commercial grade laser etcher in my basement.
Awesome.
I'm now solely sufficient to function in my basement.
That is great.
So when the mother-in-law comes over, I head to the basement.
I gotta go do plaques.
Yeah.
Have you run into supply chain issues at all?
Well, the only supply chain issue I'm having right now is all the wood I use, not the plaques themselves, but the wood I cut out to put on the plaques is birch, which comes from the Ukraine. So there are some shortage challenges. When I can find it, I buy a good bit of it. So I got plenty in stock. And the prices, oh my God, I could buy a 5 foot by 5 foot sheet of 1/4 inch birch for $19. And now it sells for $73.
Oh, gee.
So that gives you an idea. It's challenging. The other thing with the idea I had with the plaques is when I do an order of plaques for a promoter, what I offer to help them out financially is they give me a deposit and then they pay the remainder, which is usually about 60% within a week after the tournament, because most promoters get their money from their entrance fees.
Right.
So that's really helped. I think that helps promoters.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So
I have a couple of your plaques sitting right over there.
Right. So yeah, I'm getting a lot of good feedback, and actually I've had a couple texts. People text me and go, "Hey, I'm trying to pick my next tournament. Where are your plaques going to be?" So that's kind of a nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Can't get good birch from Michigan.
No, can't. No, not. No, and you know what? It's funny, on the Alabama plaques that I just did, I had clocks put in those. I put clocks in those.
All that, yeah.
And they were really popular. That was a big hit.
Those are really nice. I enjoyed the clock idea.
Try to keep the cost down. Try to make a quality award. My long-term goal, what I'd love to see is I would love to make plaques for each of the state tournaments so people could start collecting for their wall the different custom tournament plaques made for different states.
Awesome. Yeah, with each shape on it. Yeah, that's awesome.
Exactly. Yeah.
Perfect. Imagine somebody having 50 of those plaques on their wall. Oh my
That'd be
goodness.
something. That would be something.
They got 49 and then they just didn't get that Hawaii one.
Darn Hawaii.
That or Alaska, one of the two. Jeez. You imagine that?
Wow.
Where are you going, honey? Well, I got a tournament this weekend. We're at Alaska. What?
Yeah.
You'd have to
see that happening.
You'd have to
see some arm wrestler going, I got to go. Yeah.
Yeah. You'd have to plan those trips out. I'll hit Washington, maybe California the next weekend on the way back. Work your way across the country.
Yeah. Okay. So the next question I want to ask you guys, you guys have been in this sport long enough. You know, a lot of our viewers are a lot newer into the sport, let's say, than yourselves. We'll start with Bill. The question is what training and or, you know, leading up to a tournament, what kind of advice would you give a newer arm wrestler, say 2 years or less into the sport? Like, you know, they're really trying to up their game. What kind of advice could you give them?
Well, two pieces of advice. I think that it took me a lot of years to learn. The first is the hand is everything. If you don't have a strong hand, you're never going to be overly successful in arm wrestling. You may do okay, but you're never going to be top notch. You've got to have that hand, because that strong hand prevents somebody from top rolling you, or it allows you to top roll them. It allows you to force them into a hook. It allows you to keep somebody out of a hook. So you got to work the hand. You know, Gary was talking about how he and I used to work out a lot. I know sometimes we used to spend an hour and a half on bench pressing. What a dumb thing we did, you know, because we'd bench press an hour and a half, and then we'd do a few curls, and then we'd be tired and be ready to be finished. So the first piece of advice to new people, the hand is everything. The second piece of advice is you have to put arm wrestling in perspective, because it's not so much a professional sport as it is a professional hobby.
Yes.
And what happens is people get involved in arm wrestling and it consumes you, right? It becomes who you are. It becomes my passion, my life, everything. You give up everything to arm wrestle. At least I did. I know Gary did. We give up a lot to arm wrestle, and everybody wants to be the next John Brzenk, and nobody will ever be the next John Brzenk. So you have to put it in perspective. You can't make arm wrestling your life. You have to make it just something you do that you enjoy, a passion. But you also have to realize that only one person wins a tournament in your weight class, and it's not always you. And you have to start striving, not that I'm going to win every tournament, but that I'm going to consistently be a force to be reckoned with. I'm going to be in the top 3 or 4 in almost every tournament I go to. It's like baseball players. Nobody hits 1,000, you know.
Right.
They get a hit, you know, 2.5 times out of 10. It's not that great. And so arm wrestlers, new people should look at it and say, don't go putting yourself into a depressed state if you don't win every tournament. Just start going for the averages. Just start going for, I want to do well in every tournament. I want to at least, you know, maybe try to win a match or hold my own. And I think you'll enjoy the sport a lot more that way.
Yeah, that's great. Wise words. Gary, what do you think?
I think Bill's pretty much spot on with the hand control. And, you know, I was probably a guy that would have been much better had I had hand control when I was younger. I was more of a power puller. I worked my wrist a lot. My goal was to not get top rolled, make my wrist strong enough, not get top rolled, but I never top rolled myself. I wish I'd learned at a younger age, and I still wish. I mean, I could top roll somebody that was bad or a mediocre arm wrestler, but a good arm wrestler, I wasn't going to top roll them. So I learned to basically work my hand to make it strong enough to stop a top roll. And basically I would apply a lot of back pressure at the start, which would basically, you know, if you think about back pressure, when you got back pressure, the other guy's going to match your back pressure. So if they're matching your back pressure, what they don't have is side pressure. So that back pressure I would use against them, and then I would spring into a hook on them. And really, I'd hit with my heel of my hand a lot when I was younger, and I was quick. But as I got older and injuries, now I'm just sort of a hook and drag type of guy. That's about all I got left. So, Bill was a more talented technical arm wrestler than I was. He could pull on a hook. He could pull in a top roll. He could, low hook you. He could, but mainly, I pulled a lot different than most of the guys on our club. Most of the guys were a lot more technical than I was, but I just had natural strength. So, when I focus, because the way I pulled in my strength, I work my hand a lot. And when I worked my hand a lot, I did extremely well in big tournaments. If I didn't work my hand a lot, here's a great example. Bill didn't know this, but they used to have something called WPAA, which is a double start. So when I pulled in double start tournaments, my hand was gone before they said go. I was in trouble. Wow. As good as I was in a fast start, I was that bad in a slow start because, the first go, my hand would get crimped down a little bit. And the second go, I had no ability to get into the hook because I was already too far pulled out of it. So, hand is really everything if you really want to think about it. And I agree with Bill there. So
that's awesome. Yeah. Bob, what do you think?
Well, I'll tell you, all the years I've arm wrestled, my hand, I didn't really focus much on it. And then 5 months ago, I decided I wanted to pull Alabama State. And I wanted, as Bill would say, I don't know about winning, but I wanted to do well. I wanted to be competitive. So I started training with Dan Fenton about 5 months ago. And let me tell you, first of all, he's crazy. His training regimen is absurd, but very focused on the hand. And I got to say, even though I've been doing this for a long time, I am amazed at the difference right now today versus 5 months ago with my hand and the ability to control the opponent's hand. I never had that. I wished I'd known this or focused on it a long time ago. But I'm also top rolling now, which is not usually what I do, but it's very comfortable now because I have the hand. I'm not saying, I'll win all the time, but I'm in awe of what focusing on hand control and hand strength. I have to agree with Bill. That's everything, and I'm definitely on board with that now. A little late in the game, but hey, never too late to learn. And I would say definitely hand control. The other thing, when we talk to new people or people new in the sport, I think there's two things. One, when you are practicing arm wrestling, I believe it's critical that you practice fair. And what I mean by that is your wrist is flat, the thumb knuckle's not covered, your shoulders are square. Because if you don't, and you practice in a way that's not allowed when it comes time to compete, that practice is doing you no good.
Right.
And the same thing with your training, whether it's bands, cables, whatever you're working with. Keep your shoulders square, keep your wrists flat. I think it's very critical that you practice the way you're going to compete.
Yeah, Bob, that's actually brilliant, and it's something we've all faced. And I've wrestled a lot of people at practices doing just what Bob said. They start crimped, they start all kinds of ways, and I am happy to let them practice that way and start that way because number one, it makes me work harder in practice. But number two, it makes them think, I can beat Bill all the time. And then I will come and kick your ass. Because, if like Bob said, it's not helping you if you want to start, crimped every time in practice because you're not going to be allowed to. But those are pretty good advice, Bob.
I think
that's wise words.
Yeah. And I think while I'm on a roll here, I think the last thing I would add, I was just talking to some people new to the sport recently, and they were telling me how often they're doing hard practices. And this one gentleman was telling me that he's doing 3 hard practices a week.
Whoa.
And I'm saying, first of all, I don't mean to be rude, but that's crazy. That's not going to work. One, where's your recovery time? And then two, you're telling me that between the practices, you're doing gym time? That's just, I think I appreciate the enthusiasm. I really do. And the excitement. But I see quite a few people new to the sport, I think, are trying to do too much too fast. Not everybody, but I'm seeing some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as it goes from, like, we have some legends here, everybody that's watching. Listen to these guys. This is great information if you're a new puller under a year or so, or even up to 2 years. I mean, but I think by the time you're 2 or 3 years in, you kind of know, what your body's going to tell you. But to piggyback off of these guys, I think recovery is, hand obviously is number one for sure. Hand and cupping strength and not being able to be top rolled is definitely my personal number one advice for somebody new. But also second is equally as important is recovery, because my whole first year in the sport, I didn't do any of the recovery. And that's one thing that I now have realized that it was almost detrimental to my arm wrestling career in the first year, because you just get those pains and you're not doing anything to help yourself, so if anybody would listen to me also on this is recovery. If you can do one table practice a week, maybe one every 2 weeks, in my opinion, hard practice maybe, and then just work on your blood flow, recovery. And if you have to do any more table time, just work on the small angles and just get a little blood flow in there. There's no reason to light your matches every single week, and you even 2-3 times a week. There's no reason for that. You're not really gaining anything by tearing your.
I'll add a little bit to that. In 1981, I'd sleep on my arm to put it to sleep because it hurt so damn bad.
Oh God! Yeah.
Oh my goodness! Yeah.
Toothache pain in your arm.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the worst. That dull pain is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that, because I have retired at least 3 or 4 times from this sport. And when I started that first week back working with Dan, oh my God, that toothache stuff came back. And I'm like, God, not again.
Yep.
Oh, thought you were past that. Yeah, I got one more thing to add on technique, and this is more about where you are on the table. And what I try to tell people is, number one, study your opponents, know what they're good at, know what their weaknesses are, and number two is basically, when I'm on a roll, my elbow is moving on that pad to any position that makes me stronger and makes my opponent weaker. Mm-hmm. So using the pad without, dragging off the back or coming off the front, but using the pad to its fullest, it's essential, because, if you stop and think about it, if you get behind, you can almost drive. I'll give you an example. So if somebody's shoulder pressing you, and somebody's pulled you over and they're coming in on a shoulder press, if your elbow is on the back of the pad, you're dead. If you can work your way to the front of the pad and they're shoulder pressing, you can maintain pressure. At that point, all their force is going sideways. They have absolutely zero back pressure at that point if they're shoulder pressing you.
Right.
You can, if they're shoulder pressing you and you got your elbow on the front of the pad, you can drag your elbow from the front of the pad to the back of the pad and basically almost do like a top roll move on them, and you'll just pin them, and you only take them about 2 inches above the pad, and you'll pin them on the other side of the table.
Boom.
So being able to adjust your elbow to make yourself stronger, your opponent weaker, is also key. And I know when I'm on a roll, my elbow's moving all over the place, and I can force my elbow forward to get my wrist back. I can drag, I can do this and that. This past weekend was I got a lot of work to do again. I hadn't arm wrestled in 3 years, but I walked away from that and go, well, I did okay, but I didn't feel comfortable in my starts. I didn't feel comfortable in my positioning and my setup. So I got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I think we all have a lot of work to do for sure. We're always striving.
You're still young. You got
to get
time.
better.
Yeah, Bob.
Let's guys, if you don't mind, let's catch up with the chat. I've neglected the chat for a little bit too long, I do believe.
Okay.
Let's see here. Where we came off of in the chat was Joel Hudick was saying great cast tonight, guys. Billy, what happened to your beard? Shaved it off, right? Greg Arnold, arm wrestling underdog. The sport has gotten so much more exciting with my dad getting back into it. Yep, that's where we were at. Okay, so Torque Arm Wrestling said, "What's up, Bill and Gary?" Toby Sanchez. I don't know if you guys know this cat.
Yeah.
Man, Toby's a beast. He said, "I'm excited for Garage Wars." That's our East Ohio Arm Wrestling event, May 13th. It is going to be a blast. But Toby is a beast. You guys watch out for him.
Yep.
Adam, that one guy, Mr. Adam Nail, he says, "What's up, guys? Love what you're doing for the sport. Keep it up."
All right. We saw
Thank
Adam
you.
and he was there at our tournament.
Yep. Wilkie, Jeff Wilkinson, I think it's Fu Manchu time for you, Billy. I don't think so. My dad did that one time and had the walrus almost. That was hilarious. Greg Arnold says, "I'm gonna be lurking as I am helping wife mod her live stream, but it's good to see these arm wrestling pros and you too, Gary."
Wow.
Oh, geez. He also says, "Hi, Gary and Bob. Hello."
Smart ass kid.
Jack Jacobson, the last armbenders. He says, "Damn, tons of experience on the screen right now. Thanks for joining us, Jack." Adam
Jack.
Nail, Adam, that one guy on here, he says, "Awesome plaques, Bob. Looking forward to getting my third place lefty in the mail one of these days. Haha."
Yep. Yeah, I just actually finished those today, so I'll get those out.
Beautiful. Pulseo TV, what up? He's here. He says, "Hello, gentlemen."
Hello.
I think he chimed in whenever we was talking about benching. He says, "Good bench, good side pressure. At least that's worked for me," is what he says.
Yeah.
Some truth to that.
There is.
Yeah. To Bill's comment about doing well in an event is maybe just as a goal to come decent in the rankings or in the placement. Toby Sanchez, he says, "That's my goal, just to be recognized as a strong opponent."
That's perfect, Toby.
Perfect.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah.
Pulseo TV says, "Ohio is the side pressure capital of the world." Yeah,
It helps having Todd live here.
yeah.
Yeah.
I tell you what, Ohio. I tell you what, the world better be watching out, man, or at least the United States, because Ohio's coming for everybody.
Got some good pullers here.
Yeah. Let's see here. Tracy Hare arm wrestling. If you could go back and change. Oh, sorry.
Nice hand.
My alarm just went off. Oh, geez. It's time to go to bed.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Tracy Hare arm wrestling. If you could go back and change something in your arm wrestling career, would you? If so, what would it be? Hold on to that question. We'll get to that as soon as the chat's up to date here. DJ Fenton, he's here. The Viking. We definitely train hard, Bob. That's what he's talking about.
Yeah. There's nights I don't look forward to driving after that workout. Yeah.
Yeah, the pole, your arms just sitting there going.
You got to watch those Vikings. They'll tear you up.
Oh yeah.
The Drew 24, our moderator for this channel, he's here. He says, "Billy," and then he said, "Hello to Pulseo." Let's see here. The Schmo is here. He said the Drew 24 sent him. Thanks for joining us, the Schmo. Adam, the one guy, you the man, Billy. Thanks, Adam. Let's see here. The Drew 24 says, "Not everyone is Devin."
True. Thanks.
Devin's forearm is here. He said, Drew sent me here from my live chat. LOL. Cheers. Thanks for coming. Drew's forearm. Devin's forearm. Sorry. Adam, that one guy, just tells me to stop. LOL. Just too stubborn. Pulseo TV says, hey, forearm. Caleb Franks, he's here. What's up, Caleb? I stopped doing gym between practices, and I do take 3-week breaks now. So there you go. Let's see here. The Drew 24. Is Billy getting slimmer? Is Billy getting slimmer than last time I saw him here? I might have lost a few pounds there, Drew. Might have lost a few pounds.
The beard.
It always goes from right here, and it makes me look too skinny. Let's see here. Poseo TV said, went I used to be strong, 1 practice a week. That was the ticket. There you go. That seems to work out for me. 1 practice a week, and then all recovery throughout the week, and a few hard workouts in between. Seems to work out. Wilkie said, got some stars in the chat tonight, boys. Yes. Tony Stansberry, he said, the arm toothache is terrible. And I see why a lot of people take a step back from the sport because of it. I think a lot of the times, starting out that 3 to 6 month period, if you can't get through that, it's just too hard. You can't go through. If you have a physical labor job, it just ruins your day throughout the day, being able to just do your job. So, something's got to take priority. Let's see here. Adam Nell said the nerve damage in the elbow equals permanent toothache.
Yeah.
For the last year. Ouch. That's rough. The Drew 24 recovery / blood flow / therapy workout seemed to help for sure. Yep, for sure. Poseo said golfer's elbow for life.
Yeah.
Your guys, big supporter here, Steve Pettis. He's in the chat. He says, what's up, guys?
Hey, Steve.
Hey, Steve. Yeah.
Let's see here. Drew 24 said, Greg Arnold's still here, ? He's a good guy too. Yes, he is. And Greg says hello to Drew, off and on. Man. Let's see here. I think we are almost caught up here. All right, Gunner GTA. Looking very svelte and professional, Billy. He said, hi, Bob, and great chat, guys. Gunner GTA.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
All right, cool. So let's get back to Tracy Hare's question. Let's see if I can get back up to that and read that.
What would you do differently?
Yeah, if you could go back and change something in your arm wrestling career, would you? And if so, what would it be? Bob, let's start with you.
2 things for me. I was initially for many, many years a shoulder roller or hooker. I would have preferred, in hindsight, to bring top rolling into the game a lot earlier than I have. And then again, I wish I had focused on hand control a long time ago. I did everything my first probably 5 to 10 years was everything but hand control. And that was a big mistake in hindsight.
I gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah. So hand control for Bob. Gary, what do you think? You have anything that you would change?
I'd say the same thing that Bob said, other than one other thing. When you get into arm wrestling and you start developing a style and you become very good at a style, whatever that style may be, don't change your game because you're getting psyched out because you're pulling a big opponent. I probably did that at nationals. It may have cost me nationals. basically decided I was going to try to eliminate a guy's back pressure by driving his elbow off the back of the pad on the go, which I successfully did, but they didn't call the foul. Well, guess where I ended up?
His
I
side.
ended up on his side of the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they knew I was driving them off. And, typically back then they'd call that as a foul because it's like, oh, he didn't keep his elbow on, but not that day. So I drove George Gibbons off the back of the pad 3 times, had myself about 2/3 way across the table, held him off for about 45 seconds in a national sit down, and end up losing him that day. But I the times I changed my style were the times I lost.
Yeah. So go for your ace first. Don't forget your ace.
Go for your ace. If that
Too
doesn't work,
far
then
away
you may
from
want to
your strongest
improvise.
points.
But
Yeah. Gotcha. What do you think, Bill?
Well, a few things, and probably some advice for a lot of the younger people is, I would have been more of a student of the sport if I realized there was so much to it when I was younger. But you keep in mind, 41 years ago when Gary and I started, and 43 when Bob started, there was no internet. There were no camcorders or anything like you studied someone. If you could snap a picture quick enough during a match, send it to Revco or Rite Aid to get it developed, and then you'd look at it when it came back a week later and I see where his elbow was. So, but we didn't communicate. My point is we didn't have the study material. We didn't see what Devin Lorette was doing in his training, in Canada.
Yeah.
And so like I didn't even know about pronation. My top roll was just dragging back and, twisting around, but I didn't train in the gym for pronation. So that was a mistake. If I had it to do over again, I would have looked at the scientific aspect of it, because to be a top roller, it's the most technical aspect, I think, of arm wrestling, in my opinion, because there's so many pieces that have to hit all at the same time.
Yeah.
Your fingers.
Because it's for smart people, right?
Yes, top rollers are for smart people. There you go, you hookers. Take that. But I'm going to say this.
Shout out.
Yeah, I'm going to say this, and a lot of people won't understand what I'm saying at first. They won't agree with me, but think about it and you'll realize that I'm right. I used to equate speed with how fast you could put somebody to the pad. And I spent a lot of time on that. And all that really is an increased level of force due to acceleration, but it doesn't do anything for the strength. And so here's what I'm going to say. John Brzenk is probably, in my opinion, the fastest arm wrestler ever. And everybody will say, what are you talking about? But think about this. His speed comes in how fast he goes from here to a 1/4 inch advantage.
Yeah, amen.
He is so fast with his hand that it doesn't matter how fast you're going sideways. His hand is so dominant, but he is so fast on go. Boom, he's right here. And that is speed. And that speed, that's why all his matches take a while, is because he controls the person first and then has a match. And I respect that. Everybody respects that, because nobody ever complains that they didn't get a fair shake against John Brzenk. Yeah. But for all the young arm wrestlers, just realize, watch what he does. That hand is so dominant that you can disadvantage somebody with a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch of crank, and you've got the match won. So I will say that thinking about not overpowering your opponent, not being stronger than your opponent necessarily, but disadvantaging your opponent. How quickly can you disadvantage them by taking their wrist, dragging them over a 1/4 inch? That's what's really important in arm wrestling, I think. So if I had to do over again, those are the things I would focus on.
Yeah, wise words, man. Jeez.
That's a good one. That's really good, Bill. Yeah.
Yeah, Dave Patton's another great example of that. Dave would just cripple you on the start, and you're always somehow at a disadvantage against him when you pulled him.
Yeah, it's like, why do people? I respect hookers that just get in and dig it out, and sometimes we all have to do that. But if you're going into a tournament that you've got to wrestle 5, 6, 7 times, why would you put yourself at any more of an arm disadvantage where your elbow's going to get sore if you can just simply take the hand and make somebody play your game, disadvantage them a little bit to take 40% of their strength away, and then you don't put so much pressure on your elbow. And that's why John Brzezinski lasts all the time he has and is still good, is because he was smarter than us, and he was smart enough to know that he's taken people's power away from them with his hand, and then they can't do that much damage to his elbow. And that's why he's
hang on, Bill. Hang on. I'm taking notes. Hang on.
Yeah, there you go.
No, that's really good. That's
wonderful.
Really spot on.
Great. That is great information. I hope you new guys and listening to this are definitely taking down these notes, or at least, save the video and, rewatch it back, because I tell you what, this is great information for the new arm wrestlers for sure.
Billy, can I add 2 more things while I'm thinking about it?
Yes, sir.
I hate to do this, but I am a top rolling snob, and I hate to see people top roll and not use their fingers, and they end up sideways. If you could see my hand, when you try to pin somebody with your fingers facing them, it's stupid. That's not a high quality top roll.
It's not the prettiest thing.
It's not the prettiest, and it ends up, we always used to call it bitch wrestling, because you end up just pulling each other's thumbs off. But guys, if you're going to top roll, you have to be able to have the power in your fingers to prevent their hand from moving out. And you have to have riser power. So when you're taking somebody over, you can keep your knuckles towards you, as opposed to letting your fingers point to the other guy. Those sorts of things keep the longevity of your structure, your bones, your joints, your ligaments, your tendons from getting too damaged. So that's kind of a good thing. The other thing I will tell you, just a piece of advice for anybody, and I didn't learn this until just a few years ago when I really started thinking about it, but it's how severe you choose to top roll somebody. And I'm going to use Joel Hudick because I know he's on, or he was on, but he is a master at this. And think about this. Power comes from how long your arm is and the lever. So in other words, if you can get somebody to pull with their hands stretched out, that's a longer lever for them, and it's easier for you to take them over. Watch Joel Hudick when he wrestles. He top rolls, but he flat hands people. What he does is he pulls back and he opens people's hands up, so he's maximizing the ease with which he can take their lever over. But he's careful not to over top roll them, because if you over top roll somebody to here, you are now letting them work with a shorter lever, and they can put more pressure this way. Their side pressure maintained. It is better to top roll somebody and flat hand them without taking them all the way back, for obvious reasons. I hope that makes sense. And just things to think about.
That's great information. Great information. I'm going to catch up on the chat real quick before I get backed up. Tony Stansberry said, hit the like button, guys. Yeah. So if everybody could just exit the chat, hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button and hit the bell for notifications so you can be notified whenever the podcast is on again. We would really appreciate it. We're at 224 on the subscriber number right now. We would really appreciate that, bumping that number up. Let's see here. The Drew 24 said, I prefer to start years ago. So, but at least I know more about what to do and not to do, etc., than I would have been from many years ago, where I knew nothing, maybe hurt myself. So yeah, like Bill said, the amount of information that is at the fingertips of all the new arm wrestlers at this point is just dramatically and drastically more than what you gentlemen had access to.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the availability of someone to get better, the steepness is a whole lot steeper, than what it was or could have been, 30, 40 years ago. It might have been more of a gradual incline, but now there's so much information out there that if you're strong enough and you got a good enough hand, you could go from zero to hero in a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Watch out for Toby Sanchez, I guarantee you on that one.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Steve Pettis, he says, Bill, new name is the professor.
Maybe the dropout would be better.
Michael Malone Arm Wrestling says, rise, cup, and roll. Shout out Grip Arm Sport. Yeah, shout out. That is perfect. Adam Nail says, thumbs up on that one. DJ Fenton, the Viking, he says, if I have a hold of your thumb and you're trying to run, I can still pin you. Call it what you will. A win is a win.
I believe it.
Right, talking about that. So Wilkie says, yeah, we were just talking about that. Winter Blast coming up. Gonna be a good class. Not to drain the arm in the first 2 matches, if possible. Totally agree in hand control. Work the thumb every day. Yep. So that's one thing that Mr. Wilkie, whenever I first started pulling him, is just trying to go like that and just leave the hand. And then I told him, I said, you have to be able to do this. You have to be able to do this. That's your number one defense, right? Is a top roll. Mm-hmm. If you want to have a good defense, you got to be able to top roll, right? So, and just keep that in. So, and he's definitely gotten way better as far as his defense capabilities and his cupping is tremendously better in the last few months for sure. All right, so we are caught up on the chat. Is there anything that you guys want to add to that point? Anything else before we move on?
Not for me.
All right, so you guys being veterans in the sport, Bill, we'll start with you on this one. Is there anybody that has really impressed you that you kind of have taken under your wing as far as arm wrestling goes and kind of steered them in the right direction?
Well, I wouldn't ever want to take credit for anybody else's success because this is such an individual sport, but I try to help people just by giving them some advice and sharing what I know. What I'm
how about let me add this is somebody that has impressed you and that you have had a hand in helping, you know what I mean? I'm not saying that you're trying to take any right. glory off of their wins or anything like that, but like maybe a newer arm wrestler that has kind of impressed you along the way.
Yeah, we've got a number of guys in Brothers in Arms alone that were good, but I'd say like the ones that really, and I'm probably going to miss people, but this Brothers in Arms group that we have is Terrence Allen is a good one that started and came up really strong.
Yeah, very strong.
Niles Anderson is another one that started with us a few years ago and has just we saw immediately how good he would be. Cameron Smith is another one, a heavyweight. Is just a phenomenal young kid. Chris Drummond is just become very technical and very good at what he does. So we've got a lot of people that I think I've hopefully helped by giving some advice to along the way. And they're just good. There's so many people though, wow. Yeah. We've just got a lot of good people in the sport these days. And I'm impressed with a lot of people, but those are the ones that stick out, significantly.
That's awesome. Yeah. Gary, what do you think?
Pretty much same list because I practice the same guys, but Josh Koenig is another one, but Josh is a sport, but he was new when I got back into the game and practiced with him a lot and talk about hand control. He's learned the hand control piece of that. Niles, last time I pulled Niles, he is just super strong, He's come by far, a great distance since, when he first started pulling. And,
yeah. Steve Pettis in the
well,
chat said the entire Brothers in Arms team.
Yeah, I was pretty proud of Cameron, and I get on video chats and I'll chat with, Al Hill and, some of the other guys, it's like, well, Robert Barker, he'll say, well, shoot, I don't know what's going on. I'm not pulling well. And I said, look at this picture that we took and look where your hand is in relation to where your shoulder is. And then tell me why your elbow come off the pad. So, if I see something that somebody's doing wrong, I'm all about making somebody better and helping them. I'm past my peak of my career. I'm not going to be nowhere close to what I was back in the 80s. I realize that, but I get my thrills out of just, trying to make somebody else better and make somebody else help them. So
that's awesome. Well, the community definitely appreciates that. Bob, what do you think?
Well, for me, it's a two-part answer. I'd like to take all the credit for Wayne Withers' accomplishments. But not from a technical standpoint. Wayne was at a tournament. He didn't do well. He was leaving and he had decided to quit the sport. He wasn't going to do it anymore. And I happened to see him leaving and he looked really frustrated. And I had actually stopped him, talked to him, told him my story about my first 3 years never winning a match. And to this day, he'll tell you, I guess that story had a bigger impact than I ever thought it would have. And he always reminds me of that was a big turning point for him. So not a technical training teaching thing, but more of a just providing support. The other thing is I don't have the technical knowledge. Bill has blown me away with his knowledge, but I do have some experience. And when I go to practices with different groups, I just try to help as much as I can. I really enjoy taking someone and showing them one small little thing, and you see the light go off. You see them actually get it and apply it, and they get all excited. That's a great feeling when you can do that for somebody.
Yeah. I tell you what, I have only been doing this 2.5 years. Okay. But everything that you guys have been talking about has just happened like a year ago. That light bulb went ding, ding, ding. And I refuse to not show newer pullers, what I've learned. I refuse to hold on to those tricks of the trade that we should be passing on to the newer generations. Even though I'm still a newer generation puller, I refuse to hold on to information that could potentially better somebody else in the sport.
But that's one of the key things that makes our sport so great. You would be hard pressed to find a decent arm wrestler who would withhold that information. I believe it's safe to say most arm wrestlers who have knowledge want to share and are willing to share, and I think that's what makes the sport great.
Yeah, it's so great. It's amazing. Like at a tournament, so you get waxed by somebody in a tournament, and then you go up to them after the tournament. What? How did you do that? And they are 100% willing to show you exactly what they did.
Billy, I got to tell you, Bob, are you finished? And then I was going to.
Yeah, I'm good. Go for it.
Okay. Billy, I just wanted that brings back a memory. I had told you the very first tournament I went in, I ended up winning. The second tournament I went to was about 2 weeks later, and it was the Kentucky State Championship. And I went to it, and I was breezing through pretty well, and I ran into Terry Spine, Brad Spine's father. That son of a gun whacked me so hard. It was the first time I had ever remembered losing arm wrestling, but he just whacked me to the pad in like a 1/10 of a second twice. I ended up taking second, and I asked him afterwards, I said, I could tell that his hand was just so much stronger than mine. I said, how did you get your hand so strong, Terry? And he said, I turn wrenches all day. And I said, huh, okay. So when I went back home and I got with Bill Ballou and Rick Delaney, and we were at the next practice, and they said, who beat you? And I said, a guy named Terry Spine. And I told him what he said, and they laughed and they said, oh my God, he was snowing you. That guy's like a state champion many times over. And he doesn't just turn wrenches. That guy has a workout regimen. But what it does is, Terry was just pulling my leg or didn't want to share anything with me at the time. But what it did is it upset me, and it lit a fire in me. And every time I worked out, I would sit there with a pulley or the dumbbell curl, and I would say, Terry Spine, Terry Spine, Terry Spine, Terry Spine. And he is probably instrumental in driving me to get a lot better. And I kept that up until the next chance I had to arm wrestle him. And so anyway, it was just kind of an interesting story that certain things will light you up if somebody doesn't share information with you and you find out that they just didn't want to share anything with you. It bothered me. And I like Terry. He's a great guy. But back then it was a different story, as far as what drove me. And,
the sharing back then, I think, was different. I mean, nobody shared their secrets except for our teammates.
Right.
When we went to practice, we learned from each other, and we all made each other better.
Yeah, we did.
Somebody out of state, they weren't going to tell you how the hell they beat you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That was our thing back then, Billy. Is Gary had talked about us traveling, and we would go collecting state championships. I mean, we would go as a team, 4 or 5 of us, and we'd pack every class, and our goal was to win every state championship we went to. And we did pretty well for a while, but it's fun times. Hey, Billy, I don't want to usurp this, but I just wanted to share one other thing that new for the new guys, because it's something that I think for our Brothers in Arms team, we did pretty well at. Everybody wants to know, when do I make the decision to go pro? All these amateurs and what we did with Brothers in Arms is we told everybody, because we had a whole batch of new guys all at once, and we said, you make the decision to go pro, not based on numbers of wins or things like that, but when you believe that you have enough knowledge to keep yourself safe and not injure somebody else. I think that is the defining point of the difference between a pro and an amateur. A pro knows how to keep themselves from getting hurt because they've been doing it enough. They know the angles, they know their body's ability, and how not to hurt somebody else. And I think that's just a piece of advice that I think everybody should take, because, nobody can define what a pro and an amateur is, because not everybody can agree on it. And who's going to track whether you've won 3 amateur championships or something like that? It's just kind of silly. Right. So it really, being a professional in arm wrestling, not about how much money you make. It's not about how great you are, but it's really about how knowledgeable you are in staying healthy.
Yeah, that's great. Great words of wisdom for sure. Let's go to the chat. You guys, thank you so much for those answers for the question, man. Wise words for sure. New pullers, make sure you guys are paying attention to what these veterans are telling you. Let's see here. The Drew 24 asks, Paulin versus Sasho Andreev match thoughts. Does anybody have any thoughts on that match?
I don't know Sasho. I don't know those foreign guys, so I
don't either. Yeah.
I know Paulin's a bad dude.
Yeah. What a super compact little beast Sasho is. He's I think he's Bulgarian, I think. Don't quote me on that, but Michael Malone Arm Wrestling, he says, this is the best informational show so far. Thank you so much.
Good.
Let's see here. Wink wink from DJ Fenton. Right.
Yeah.
Tony Stansberry, speaking for the newer pullers, we will take as much info as you guys are willing to give us. That's awesome. And it's great seeing newer pullers striving for the information, asking for the information, not trying to just man up and I'll figure it out myself, like it takes a certain a strong enough person up here in order to set their ego aside and really, try to let that light bulb flicker at least, because I've met enough newer pullers and just in the time that I've been doing this to where, they just want to get a couple good whacks in and then see what they can do, but don't want to listen to anybody. And then it's one of those ones where they're just practicing like this and not wanting to, listen too much. It's just, oh boy.
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody's come across those types.
We have.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, maybe one.
Let's see here. The Jew 24 says also important to know what is meant for advanced pullers on and off the table versus what's meant for brand new pullers to learn and train for. So it's two different styles, I think is what he's getting at is two different styles of training. And like the beginnings of arm wrestling, your basics, your basic movements and everything on the table. And then once you graduate from that, then you go into your advanced movements, where you need an experienced puller to help you, train on those. It's definitely good to have a good team to work with.
Billy, can I just add something to that?
Yep.
Real quick? Because that's an absolutely true statement. When you are first starting, you are just learning the basics. It's like
you're learning to walk.
It's the off the shelf top roll. It's the off the shelf hook. That's how you train. How do I top roll? How do I hook? How do I do this and that? But as you get going, you start realizing that there's one SOB out there that beats me. How do I beat him? And you start studying his weaknesses, and then you start doing situational training. And that's when you have graduated from, you're no longer a beginner, because you are now starting to say, how do I beat Bob Sutton? Because he's this and he's that, and I've got to train specifically for him without him knowing what I'm doing. And so you start adding things to your routine. And, we've got, Greg and I give names to some of our exercises in honor of the people that did them. Like, for example, there's a guy named Andrew Quaid out in Missouri, and Greg and I had gone out to a tournament, and Andrew beat him one round with a certain move. And we realized coming back, I said, Greg, we got to come up with a way to prevent that. So we have an exercise called Quaid stoppers, and they are geared specifically to stop somebody from beating Greg the way that Andrew Quaid did. And after we did this for about 3 months, we were at a tournament, and sure enough, this guy had the exact same style, and Greg, like, boom, just stopped it right there and was able to win. So you start realizing that you are going to start doing incremental learning from people, because your incremental learning is, how do I beat Roman Gromov, or how do I beat this guy, or how do I, you have to learn certain situations on how to beat people. And that's when it becomes fun.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. Let's see here. Michael Malone Arm Wrestling says, thank you, Bill. That was the greatest advice. Learn your body and how to stay safe, for sure.
Yeah.
Caleb Franks, he adds, amateur placing is cool, but the glory is in the pros. I don't care about my pro losses. I have learned so much. Yeah. That's when you know that, you're going into the pro ranks, or open ranks, as you would call it. If you didn't learn anything winning an amateur class, then it's not for you anymore.
Well, Gary and Bob will attest to this. They didn't have amateur when we started.
That's right.
They really didn't.
Exactly right.
It was it.
There was one, Bill. The Dayton Arcade had a pro-am,
Well, yeah, some of them, they called them Pro-Am, but that just meant they clumped everybody together.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, how cool would it be? Like they do in the PGA Tour, where they have a pro and then like a celebrity or like an amateur or something. How cool would that be to have like a team kind of event or something like that, where a veteran puller pulls a random novice or amateur guy out of the ranks, and they kind of team up and go through the tournament together.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be a cool aspect to maybe come up with.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. Let's see here. The Dude 24 says, yeah, even if I place first in amateur, it's still just amateur. LOL. I placed second in my first ever tournament, but it wasn't pros. Cool UAL medal though.
Mm-hmm.
Like some people can pull or hold like Varese in that dangerous hold, while most people should not do, especially new pullers.
Yeah.
And then he also adds, yeah, I learned a lot in my first tourney after the after pulls for the 2 days of the tourney. Tore my arms up more than the tourney.
Yeah.
For sure.
Been there, done that. Yeah.
Oh man. So, all right. So guys, we're gonna ask the chat, you guys, if you guys have any more any conversation pieces, any questions you guys want to ask these veterans of the sport, these legends of the sport, you guys put your questions and your comments in the chat. We're going to be wrapping it up here pretty soon. But yeah, I did want to ask one more question to everybody. I think it'd be a fun question. What is the craziest and or funniest story you guys have come across in your arm wrestling careers?
Wow.
Bob, you want to start it out?
Sure, I'll throw one out there. We went to a tournament in Florida, and it was myself, David Randall, Cleve Dean, Robert Webb, and a few others. We stayed at a friend's house. We all sleeping on the floors. And in the middle of the night, I wake up and there's a light coming from the kitchen, and it's Cleve sitting in front of the open refrigerator. and I asked Cleve, I said, well, what are you doing? What's going on? He goes, man, I'm hot. This refrigerator feels good. I said, oh, okay. All right. No problem. So we get up the next morning, we go to the tournament. Tournament's over. We come back to this friend's house, and the plan was that the wife was going to, she had food ready for us. She had pre-purchased a ham, a couple apple pies. Well, those things had been in the refrigerator.
Oh, no.
And when we go into the fridge, there's just a little bit of ham left. And one pie and a piece of another is gone.
Oh, wow.
And I'm going, Cleve, when you was in the fridge last time, did you eat all that food? And he says, well, I was hungry. And it's just, I've never forgotten that. And for those that don't know Cleve, at that time, I think he weighed like 600, 610. He was a big man. And when he sat down to eat, he eat. And I never forgot that. That lady was so mad. So that's a story. So
that's a good one.
Gary, you got any crazy or fun stories?
Yeah, I got a couple crazy stories, but I think I'll tell you the one. I went with Dave Montz and Bill Ballou. We hopped in a car. We drove up to Cleveland, and I think each one of us. I think Dave pulled super heavyweight that day, and he weighed about 185 pounds. Bill Ballou pulled his normal class, and I think I may have pulled the 185 that day. So irrelevant. But before the tournament, I was sitting there with Dave Montz, and he noticed Steve Austin coming by, and Steve Austin was a pretty well-known heavyweight from that Cleveland area. They used to call him the Bionic Man because that's Bionic Man days. If you guys all know what the Bionic Man was.
Yeah.
You old timers know. Well, yeah. Steve's walking over towards us, and Dave goes, "Hey, Gary, grip up with me." So I grip up with him. He says, "Now just let me pull you over." So, we're just sitting there at a table. So he puts his finger straight up in the air, and he says, "Now just let me pull you over." So he pulls me over. And, Austin sort of looking, and he goes, now you put your finger up, and he just lets me pull him over. So Austin stops. What are you doing there? He goes, oh, we've been working on this new technique. It's really good. So he said, here, try it with my friend. So Steve puts his finger up, and I just let him pull me over. So tournament starts, and Dave and Austin get in the finals of the first bracket through. Dave goes up there, puts his finger up, and before they say go, he puts his finger down, and Austin puts his finger up. He grabs a hold of Austin's finger and pins him. So Austin's all pissed off because he just got scammed. So Austin come back and beat him twice, and came back out of losers bracket, beat him. But Dave was pulling 185 pounds, and he goes, well, but Dave was always screwing with people.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Bill, what do you think? You got any weird or crazy stories?
I've got a whole bunch. Some I can't share, like Houston, like Houston. But I'll share another Cleve Dean story. It was 1983 at the World Championship down in New Orleans. We had gone down there. It was huge. But Cleve was there, and I think he weighed in at like 595 or something like that. He was, like Bob said, he was a big guy. And in the finals, Cleve got fouled out against Bobby Hopkins. Dave Motz and Harley Maynard actually reffing. But in WPAA, which handled the World Championships back then, when you got to the finals, it was single elimination. And the rule was if you slipped out, you had to start in a hook and stay in a hook. That was the rules. And Cleve Dean and Bobby Hopkins slipped. They went in a hook. And Cleve just started posting up. And when he did, he started naturally top rolling Bobby. And he was told, don't do that, don't do that. And he got fouled out, lost. He took second in the World Championships. Well, all of our checks were sitting out on a table. Everybody got paid. The top three got paid with checks. And they were all sitting out on this table. And Cleve was so mad, and it was the last match of the day. He was so furious that he had been fouled out that he went over and he sat down on all of our checks. And he said, I'm not moving. And he sat there and he was really upset. And it took forever. We all wanted to go, but they couldn't give them. And who's gonna yank 600-pound Cleve off the table? But in any case, it was a little small guy from Georgia, I think, who went there and finally talked to him, said, come on, Cleve, we all want to get home. And so we finally got up and we got our checks and we got out of there. But
was that Burt Whitfield?
What's that?
Was that Burt Whitfield?
No, it was Ogden, Dave. I think David Ogden or somebody like that. Is one of the little guys, like 135 pounder. But that's a clean story, I can tell.
Nice. I appreciate that. I kind of would rather keep this channel on the cleaner side.
I figured.
Yeah. Let's see here. I'm going to go to the chat. Let's see. Brandon Carroll. He's a friend from high school. Hey, Bill. How's it going? Hi, Brandon. Caleb Franks. He has a question. What is the greatest or most fun achievement that you've accomplished in your career? Bob, you mind starting us out?
Oh, yeah, that's easy for me. World Championships in Russia. Big class, left and right-handed. I honestly didn't think I could make top 4. I actually prayed Monday morning to make top 10. I would have been thrilled. But what happened was there was a guy from Uzbekistan, and every time he would win a match, he would turn around to the entire audience and just give his hand up, just do a gesture that was just really rude. And I don't know why, but it pissed me off. And I've never really been one to get angry or I'm a pretty easygoing guy, but for some reason that just set me off, and I really wanted to arm wrestle him, and my attitude changed, and it changed for the better that day, and I got second and third, so I was but it came down to me and him on second and third, and I walked right up to the table, pointed at him, and just bent my finger and said, come over here. And I never do that kind of stuff. I'm a very calm, easygoing guy. And I never forget, because I remember some of my teammates going, well, you picked the right day to get pissed off, did you? Yeah, that was a big deal. And the memory I had there was the Russians, when they would, or some of the Russian countries, when they would get second or third, some of their teammates would turn their back to them because they didn't get first. And I never forgot that. I thought, if you take second or third in anything in the world, I don't care if it's Tiddlywinks or Monopoly, I don't care what it is, that's a hell of an accomplishment. And I just never, but yeah, for me, it definitely the world's in Russia.
What year was that, Bob?
2003, long before your time.
Hey, I graduated high school.
Jeez, yeah. Long
I kind of wish that. I mean, everybody wishes they, maybe would have changed something, but I kind of wish that I would have found the sport a lot, or the competitive sport of arm wrestling. I kind of wish that I would have, caught it a lot earlier, because, at 35 or 36, that's a little late in the game catching it.
Yeah,
but
anyway, I think many of our top competitors, though, if you look at their age, most of our top competitors, Bill, you let me know what you think, are not young.
Right, they're in their 40s.
Yeah,
minimum.
Minimum.
Yeah. Well, hopefully I can do something at least and make a name for myself in Ohio, I guess. I'll be okay with that.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Gary, what do you think? What is the greatest or most fun achievement that you've accomplished in your career?
Yeah, I think probably two things. My first major win over a world champion was beating Harley Maynard in 1983 at Tri-State in Ohio. Beat him, I think, 3 weeks after he came back from winning the world championships in WPAA, which is a huge deal.
Yeah.
Had 2 battles with him that day, and lucky enough come out on top, because it was almost impossible to pin that guy. The probably second thing was I pulled national sit downs 1985. Bill was there. I think we both walked away with seconds. Dave Patton jumped in my class. I would have walked through that class if Dave hadn't been in it. So being Dave was in it, and I practiced with Dave all the time, I jumped in the 85 class. So gave George Givens two very good matches. At 185, I weighed in maybe 170. And George, I think, had won that tournament 10 years in a row. But typically he didn't have much competition. So
yeah, that's great. That's definitely awesome. Bill, what do you think?
Mine's pretty easy. It's my biggest, I guess, my proudest moment, I guess. This was just, I was probably within this past year. We went to a tournament, and Greg had 2 super matches, a right hand and a left hand. And then he got in the weight class, right and left weight class, and he won both his super matches and both his right and left-handed class. So he went away with four victories that day. And watching your son do something like that, and knowing what he's overcome in his life, and just how humble he is. It's like, he doesn't brag about it. He doesn't tell anybody about anything. The kid's got 2 black belts. Nobody knows it, and it's like, he does so many things with his life, but to watch him train as hard as he does and go to that tournament, I don't know, as one of Steve's tournaments. But anyway, he had, like I said, 2 super matches, and both his right and left-handed weight class. He just breezed through both of them. So that was my proudest moment, Billy.
That's awesome. Definitely a proud moment for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a great day. He was definitely on that day, guaranteed.
He was. Yeah, he's either on or he's off, and he was on that day.
Oh, I know we all have that. We're either on or we're off. And I tell you what, it feels great those days where you're on, and your wrist and your fingers feel like stone, and it's just awesome.
Right.
We have just a couple little comments here. We got the Drew 24 says, seeing Brzezink's thumb, how important is it to do thumb exercises? using that little rubber donut like he likes to squeeze as example.
Yeah.
What do you got?
I'll answer that. Just my quick 2 cents worth. I think it's important. But to me, it's important because not so much that your thumb is going to, I don't think your thumb technically does that much to disadvantage your opponent. But what it does is if you build that muscle up thick enough, it's harder for the guy to get a grip on you. And if you can get somebody's fingers to fall a quarter inch shorter than they could have if you didn't build up that fat thumb, you're doing a lot. And so I think that's why his thumb is, that's one of his secrets is people can't get around his hand as well as they'd like to.
Do you guys think the more that you train your thumb, the thicker this gets, your padding, right?
Yeah.
And the less coverage somebody's going to be able to have on the back of your hand.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
I agree.
Imagine grabbing a 1-inch pipe and a 2.5-inch pipe.
Correct.
Your fingers just don't get that far around the 2.5-inch pipe like they do the 1-inch.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I think people don't realize when you're working out the thumb. It's like Bill said, it's not that you're developing a thumb strength, but you're building up that size right underneath the thumb. And every little bit helps. Yeah.
Quick side note. The Drew just commented, is it illegal to get thumb and hand implants to make it thicker?
Save your dollar bills and have the surgery.
Oh my. Some people get that tendon, dislocation, and then they get it tied a little tighter. Get a little implant in here, make it like 3 inches thick.
Yeah. Maybe it might be better to cut an inch out of your thumb so then you can force people to keep coming down and down and down and then just top roll the heck out of them.
Right.
Okay.
Nice. So our last comment here, the Jew24 also says, wow, Cleve was a character, Cleve Dean. Imagine if he ate properly, trained, etc., like Levon, would have destroyed Levon too, is what he think.
Would have been interesting.
Yeah, it would have been.
Yeah.
Guys, I appreciate your time. I really do.
It's been fun.
What did the Drew24 just commented? Also, can someone with a missing thumb arm wrestle? Question. How is that setup done?
I cannot answer that question.
I've never seen somebody with a missing thumb arm wrestle.
Hey, that's why they have left-handed. That's the only reason.
There you go.
Oh, geez. Guys, I appreciate you guys being on the podcast. It was a wonderful conversation. New arm wrestlers that are watching this podcast, make sure you guys watch this again. Take what these veteran legend pullers have to say to heart. I tell you, it is great information. It will help you along in your training. That's what this podcast is for, is to help the arm wrestling community get better, get stronger, get smarter on the table. Wonderful, wonderful information you guys have given us tonight. And I thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Sure. Shout out to Kevin Palco. Congratulations to Kevin Palco for his Arnold Classic win.
Yeah,
sir. I got to grip up with Kevin today up in Cleveland. I actually just got back a half hour before I got on here with you guys. So I had the privilege of shaking his hand today and congratulating him on his win.
Yeah.
A little plug for Steve Pettis here.
Yep.
Steve Pettis has a tournament this weekend down in Covington. So if you're looking for something to do, come on down.
Steve puts on the best. He puts on tournaments that are very well run. He doesn't waste your time. They're great tournaments.
I appreciate Steve's help at my tournament too. He's a huge help for me. So
yes, sir.
And his tournament this weekend has my plaques. So
great,
awesome.
There you go.
The community sticks together. We all help each other out as much as we can. I know, driving here and there could be a little bit taskful sometimes, but hey, if it helps out your brother, it's all worth it.
Yeah.
So Here's something to think about, Billy, is in the state we have multiple teams. It'd sure be neat to have a tournament where basically there's team points and team award.
Yeah.
Just something to think about. It'd be to set up. I think if you had a team event, you would get a group of people to travel for that team to the event in hopes to
the team with the most points or the most wins, or however you want to do it.
You'd have to set up a point system, first, second,
I got
third.
the perfect venue. Let's see here. It is the Ohio State Rumble, April 22nd, right outside of Columbus. I do believe it's Polaris. Bill Connor's event. You guys look it up, April 22nd, Ohio State Rumble. I'm going to get a hold of him and ask him if that is possible, if we can get a team award together and maybe post something and get some multiple people from different teams and see if we can't get some fun team polling going on.
That'd be cool because, we used to have state teams and we'd travel and, it'd be first for, a certain state, second and third. But there's enough pollers in Ohio now that you could do that within the state, and there's enough teams that you could do that. And I think it becomes peer pressure. It's like, hey, we're going to this. You need to come. We need your support. And drag 2 or 3 guys along that we're looking for an excuse not to go.
If you guys had team arm wrestling teams, okay. I've been thinking about this for a long time. How many guys would you have on a team? One per weight class, or how would you do that?
I
how
don't
many
think
guys would you want on your team to travel to another tournament to try to go after a team win?
The way I've always thought of that is you open it up, because there's going to be guys travel from the team, but there's only 1 or 2 guys on that team that's going to place. But it becomes a team thing where, hey, we're taking the brothers' arms and we're going here, and try to get the full team to go. So when they sign up, you would just have what team, brothers in arms. And if a guy has, a guy that should typically take, not even places third, he contributed,
Yeah.
So, there is a thing in numbers, but at the end of the day, the best pullers are the ones that are going to place. So,
right.
So I don't think you limit it to the number of people. You basically first, second, third, and points, and whoever gets first, second, third.
Yeah. I like.
We got dibs on Todd. Dibs on Todd.
When's the last time Todd has actually been to a tournament in Ohio?
Good question.
Yeah. I know the last time I saw him at an event was the PAL Slaughterhouse event up in Cleveland last summer, I do believe, but that was just an appearance.
Yeah, he'll go to Gus's occasionally. I've seen him at Gus's several times. So,
yeah, right. Let's see here. Drew 24 says, have the ones that represent each city, etc. And he goes, oh yeah, you guys do get Toddzilla. Not fair. Not fair at all. Hey, we got DJ Fenton now too.
That's right.
That's right. He's gonna make some big waves. Big waves are coming.
Yeah, he's strong.
Look out for him. And who's he facing at Ohio State's?
He's nothing in Ohio yet. Right now, his next big match is in Tim Bresnan in September. That's
that's for Ohio State's.
Yeah, it's his big focus right now.
Yeah, that's going to be a huge match for him. That's going to be great. He just posted the death circuit awaits, Bob.
Oh crap! Yeah, when I went to train with him the first night, I managed to get through the workout. I didn't get to complete everything, but I got to the end where I'm like, thank God I can go home. He goes, no. The workout's done. Now we have to do the death circuit. I won't go into what that is, but the death circuit alone is a freaking workout. It's just, he's nuts.
Hey, you train hard. You train hard so that way the competing is easy.
Oh no, the training's been great. I mean, I've improved dramatically. I'm really pleased, but whew, it's a pain.
I can imagine. I can imagine.
My recovery.
Guys, thank you so much.
Used to be.
Guys, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Bob, did you have anything else that you wanted to add there?
No. I would throw a subject out for a future podcast. I'm very interested in having some conversation in regards to coming together as a state is one subject. And then two, I'd be interested in having conversations about promoting, putting on tournaments. Just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. There are so many tournaments being put on now, a lot of new promoters out there. And
Yep.
I really feel like there's the potential need for maybe a checklist of things to consider and make sure you cover. Also getting feedback when you do have a tournament, not being shy about that. Hey, I just had my tournament. Please give me your constructive criticism. How do we make it better next time? There's a lot of potential for that discussion, I think.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Bill, I know you want to add to that. Yes.
No, I think Bob's spot on. I think a kind of a guide for anybody putting on a
tournament
would be a good thing for a group to come up with.
Yeah,
yep.
I agree.
I think that's something that we can definitely work towards. We just got to have guys that are willing to work together.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Willing to work together and let egos aside and just work together.
And that's easier said than done.
Oh, it is. Yes. Yep. I do have one more question in the chat. Top Hands Polling Team. He says, my question is about stand up versus sit down. How come not too many pull sit down? And my question to panel, do you feel sit down is harder than stand up?
Oh, I'll jump in on that one. There used to be a lot of sit down back in the day. I personally loved sit down. It is a totally different animal than stand up. But I think that sit down is harder. And I'll tell you why. Because with sit down, your lower body does not come into play. A shoulder roll doesn't come into play. It is really all about the hand. And then you realize when you try to pin somebody on a sit down without lifting your butt off the seat, that is hard to do. So it makes you have to work harder on controlling the hand and that down pressure. I think sit down it's harder to pin somebody on a sit down than it is on a stand up. And that's just my take. And that's why I think sit down is a little harder. And it's a more true form of arm wrestling because of the obvious not using your lower body.
Yeah, I got you. Gary or Bob, do you guys want to add to that at all?
I think it's harder, that's for sure. But I also think when you train for sit down, you train differently. Mm-hmm. It's definitely a whole different way of arm wrestling. Glenn Brooks, who is big on sit down, was actually showing me after the Alabama tournament. He got me on a sit down table, and I was so uncomfortable. And the things I was trying to do was what I would do standing up. It doesn't work. Mm-hmm. It's very different. And it would take me a long time, I think, to adjust and train for that, which is why I will leave that alone.
Let's see here. One more question. Michael Malone Arm Wrestling. What about amateur only tournaments since pros get mixed in a lot? Or what do you think about that? Or is it just getting better pulling all?
What was the question again?
Not entirely sure. I think he's asking what's your thoughts about doing amateur only tournaments versus having both of them at one, amateur and pros.
Well, I think Bill touched on this earlier, where how do you define what an amateur is?
Right.
Well, I'm gonna let Bill chime in here too, because a lot of that also comes down to economics financially. So when you're putting on a tournament, part of the draw is having the pros, and my tournaments, I charge an entry fee for non-contestants. And, that's part of the, what goes into the till. But, Bill had a nice breakdown that he sent me, and he probably recite the numbers off the top of his head. But I think the number of pros that we had probably exceeded the number of amateurs we had by probably 40%, maybe 35%.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, financially, if you just have an amateur event,
don't expect a whole ton then, right?
yeah, it would be a smaller event. Of course, you don't have as many awards, but it becomes a, financial, hey, can I make any money doing this? For tournaments, I don't care if I make money because I give it all away. But most of these promoters, they're not out there running a tournament to walk away with nothing or walk away in the red,
Right. The whole goal for me personally is to make some money. Well, I haven't even made any money yet. So, but that's the goal, is to make some money in order to put on the next event. You just keep rolling everything over.
Right.
Yeah.
And be able to maybe have some better awards here and there, or be able to bring in a big name here or there, or, maybe throw money at the, with the awards instead of just having awards or something, or,
Yeah.
It's putting everything that you make into your next event to try to make everything better. Take those constructive criticisms like Bob was saying, and take those, try to make your event better, for as many people as possible, because we all know you're never going to make everybody happy.
No, it's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's definitely a good point, is just, just trying to get better each time,
Yeah. I think there's something to be said about having amateur. I mean, we always want to bring new people into the sport, and we want it to, but you don't want some pro mixed in there. That, I've known some guys that pulled pro or they pulled amateur their whole life, and they'd win a lot of amateur tournaments, but it's like, well, why are you doing that? I mean, how are you ever going to get better? Right. So, but it is a great way to bring people into the sport, because it's no fun going out and getting your ass kicked all the time.
Right. Top Hands Pulling Team says, yes, sir. Thanks. Let's get sit down back.
Absolutely. I'd love that.
I love sit down.
You would.
That's going to wrap up this week's podcast. I really appreciate you guys being on here. Thank you so much for your insight and your knowledge and everything you gentlemen do for the sport of arm wrestling and the community of arm wrestling in Ohio. We really appreciate everything you guys do.
Well, thank you, Billy.
Thanks for the invite. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
Thanks for being here. You guys have a wonderful evening, and God bless.
You too this weekend, Bob.
Right. Yep.
All right. Take care.
Yep. Have a good one.